Mictlantecuhtli, Nahuatl pronunciation, mik.t ЛaːN.ТЕːkWt, meaning Lord of Mictlan. In Aztec mythology, was a god of the dead and the king of Mictlan. Chicunauhmictlan, the lowest and northernmost section of the underworld. He was one of the principal gods of the Aztecs and was the most prominent of several gods and goddesses of death in the underworld. The worship of Mictlantecuhtli sometimes involved ritual cannibalism, with human flesh being consumed in and around the temple. Two life-size clay statues of Mictlantecuhtli were found marking the entrances to the House of Eagles to the north of the Great Temple of Tenochtitlan. Attributes: Mictlantecuhtli was 6 foot tall, and was depicted as a blood-spattered skeleton or a person wearing a toothy skull. Although his head was typically a skull, his eye sockets did contain eyeballs. His headdress was shown decorated with owl feathers and paper banners, and he wore a necklace of human eyeballs, while his ear spools were made from human bones. He was not the only Aztec god to be depicted in this fashion, as numerous other deities had skulls for heads or else wore clothing or decorations that incorporated bones and skulls. In the Aztec world, skeletal imagery was a symbol of fertility, health and abundance, alluding to the close symbolic links between death and life. He was often depicted wearing sandals as a symbol of his high rank as Lord of Mictlan. His arms were frequently depicted raised in an aggressive gesture, showing that he was ready to tear apart the dead as they entered his presence. In the Aztec codices, Mictlantecuhtli is often depicted with his skeletal jaw open to receive the stars that descend into him during the daytime. His wife was mik.t, and together they were said to dwell in a windowless house in Mictlan. Mictlantecuhtli was associated with spiders, owls, bats, the 11th hour, and the northern compass direction, known as Mictlantecuhtli, the region of death. He was one of only a few deities held to govern over all 3 types of souls identified by the Aztecs, who distinguished between the souls of people who died normal deaths, of old age, disease, etc., heroic deaths, e.g., in battle, sacrifice or during childbirth, or non-heroic deaths. Mictlantecuhtli and his wife were the opposites and complements of Ometecuhtli and Ometecuhtli, the givers of life. Mictlantecuhtli was the god of the day sign Itzcuintli, dog, one of the 20 such signs recognized in the Aztec calendar, and was regarded as supplying the souls of those who were born on that day. He was seen as the source of souls for those born on the 6th day of the 13-day week and was the 5th of the 9 night gods of the Aztecs. He was also the secondary week god for the 10th week of the 20-week cycle of the calendar, joining the sun god Tonatiuh to symbolize the dichotomy of light and darkness. In the Colonial Codex Vaticanus 3738, Mictlantecuhtli is labeled in Spanish as the Lord of the Underworld, Tzitzimitl, the same as Lucifer. Myths. In Aztec mythology, after Calcotl and Tezcatlipoca created the world, they put their creation in order and placed Mictlantecuhtli and his wife, Mictlantecuhtli, in the underworld. According to Aztec legend, the twin gods Calcotl and Xolotl were sent by the other gods to steal the bones of the previous generation of gods from Mictlantecuhtli. The god of the underworld sought to block Calcotl's escape with the bones and, although he failed, he forced Calcotl to drop the bones, which were scattered and broken by the fall. The shattered bones were collected by Calcotl and carried back to the land of the living, where the gods transformed them into the various races of mortals. When a person died, they were interred with grave goods, which they carried with them on the long and dangerous journey to the underworld. Upon arrival in Mictlan, these goods were offered to Mictlantecuhtli and his wife. Another myth. The sagacious, shrewd god of death agrees to give the bones to Ḳālkōtl if he can completely finish what would appear to be a simple test. The god informs Ḳālkōtl that he has to travel through his kingdom 4 times, while a shell sounds out like a trumpet. However, in place of giving Ḳālkōtl the shell from Mictlantecuhtli, he gives him a normal shell without holes in it. To not be mocked, Ḳālkōtl beckons the worms to come perforate the shell, thus creating holes. He then calls the bees to enter the shell and to make it sound out like a trumpet, as an emblem of his power over wind and life. Ḳālkōtl is commonly depicted wearing a cut shell over his chest. This shell represents the same shell that łaːń, the god of the wind, wears whilst listening to the roar of the trumpet. Mictlantecuhtli, at first, decides to allow Ḳālkōtl to take all of the bones from the last creation, but then quickly changes his mind. Nevertheless, Ḳālkōtl is more astute than Mictlantecuhtli and his minions and escapes with the bones. Mictlantecuhtli, now very angry, orders his followers to create a very deep pit. While Ḳālkōtl is running away with the bones, he is startled by a quail, which causes him to fall into the pit. He falls into the pit and dies, or so it would appear, and is subsequently tormented by the animal. The quail and the bones he is carrying are scattered. The quail then begins to gnaw on the bones. Despite the fall, Ḳālkōtl is eventually revived and gathers all of the broken bones. For this reason that people today come in all different sizes. Once he has escaped from the underworld, Ḳālkōtl carries the precious cargo to Tamoanshan, a place of miraculous origin. See also Arpush, Maya death gods, Santa Muerte, Tzitzimitl. Notes. Austin, Alfredo Lopez. 1997. Tamoanshan, Tlalocan. Places of Mist. Nahuatl. Co. UPR. Of Colorado. Print. Leeming. David Adams. 2005. The Oxford Companion to World Mythology. New York. Oxford U Press. Print. Austin. Alfredo Lopez. Guilherme Olivier. And Russ Davidson. 2015. The Myth of Ḳālkōtl. Religion, Rulership, and History in the Nahua World. Boulder. U Press of Colorado. Print. Media related to Mictlantecuhtli at Wikimedia Commons.